In 1600, autumn, a warrior was sent to a small mountain village. His name was Sanada Yukimura. He was 33 years old. In the prime of his life, what awaited him was confinement. Mornings wrapped in mist, nights filled only with the sound of insects. A quiet village called Kudayama. He began living there in a small hermitage, together with his father. 3 years later, his father fell ill. 11 years later, his father passed away. And 3 more years after that, Yukimura was left alone. 14 years. That's long enough for most people to lose hope. But Yukimura wasn't just waiting. Then, in the spring of 1614, a messenger arrived. Osaka Castle is preparing to fight the Tokugawa. Please, lend us your strength. Yukimura answered quietly. I will go. Everyone around him was shocked. Anyone could see there was no chance of victory. Tokugawa Ieyasu already ruled Japan. The Toyotomi side had only one castle. Still, Yukimura didn't hesitate. At 48 years old, gray hair mixed with black, deep lines carved into his face. But in his eyes, there was a light that hadn't been there 14 years ago. Something strange happens in history. Usually, the winners write history. The victors become the heroes we remember. But Sanada Yukimura lost his battles. He gained no land, no wealth, nothing. Yet, why is his name still remembered 400 years later? Why does Yukimura touch people's hearts more deeply than Tokugawa Ieyasu, the man who won? Even stranger, the Tokugawa shogunate never banned stories about Yukimura. Why did they allow tales of an enemy to spread? The answer lies in those 14 years of silence, and in the few days that followed. Today, I'll tell you about the resolve born from 14 years of silence. Why a defeated warrior is praised more than the victor, and the truth about how Yukimura made the ruler of Japan tremble with fear. Yukimura was born in 1567. His father's name was Sanada Masayuki, a brilliant military commander. When Yukimura was 15, the lord his father served was destroyed. The Sanada family faced extinction, but his father was clever. He changed allegiances skillfully. He kept the Sanada family alive. Yukimura followed his father's choices. At 19, Yukimura was sent as a hostage to a powerful lord. A hostage, a guarantee of alliance, but dangerous. Your life could end at any moment. Still, Yukimura didn't let it break him. Eventually, Yukimura was transferred to serve under Toyotomi Hideyoshi, still a hostage. But Hideyoshi liked him, his gentle nature, his sincerity, his strength to face forward, no matter the situation. Hideyoshi promoted Yukimura to a close retainer. Though a hostage, Yukimura earned Hideyoshi's trust, and he married the daughter of a friend. Meanwhile, his elder brother married into a Tokugawa family. The brother had ties to the Tokugawa. Yukimura had ties to the Toyotomi. These two connections would eventually split the brothers' fates. In 1598, Toyotomi Hideyoshi died. The death of the ruler meant war would begin again. Tokugawa Ieyasu and other powerful warlords grew hostile. Day by day, the tension deepened. Then, in 1600, warlords across Japan split into 2 camps for battle. Which side should the Sanada family choose? Father, elder brother, and Yukimura. The 3 talked through the night. The father spoke clearly. I will side with the Toyotomi. The brother's position was different. His wife's family served the Tokugawa. It was natural for him to join the Tokugawa. Yukimura chose to follow his father. His wife's father was also a Toyotomi commander. The 3 faced each other quietly. They might never meet again. Next time they saw each other, they might be enemies. But no one blamed anyone. Everyone had their position. Everyone had their own path to believe in. For the Sanada family to survive, whichever side won, the Sanada blood must remain. It was a painful decision. Before dawn, the 3 parted ways. Father and Yukimura to their castle, the brother to the Tokugawa army. Perhaps they would never see each other again. With that resolve in their hearts. Soon the Tokugawa army came, 38,000 soldiers. The Sanada force was only 2,500. But the father had a strategy. The father was a genius at warfare. Yukimura learned his tactics up close. They fortified the castle. They cleverly confused the enemy. They showed openings, then retreated. They lured them in, then struck. For 5 days, the Sanada army held back the massive Tokugawa force. It was a magnificent battle. But at another battlefield, the Toyotomi side lost. Yukimura's father-in-law died in that battle. Tokugawa Ieyasu, now the victor, ordered the execution of father and son. But the elder brother pleaded desperately, "Please spare my father and brother." Ieyasu finally relented. They will not be executed, but they must live in a remote mountain village. October 1600. Father was 53. Yukimura was 33. They were sent to a village called Kudoyama. Here began Yukimura's long years of silence. Kudoyama was truly a small village. Mornings wrapped in deep mist. Nights with only the sound of insects. Nothing like the glamour of the capital. Days living in a small hermitage with his father. Life was not easy. His brother sent money regularly, but they still struggled. Yukimura sometimes wrote to his brother, letters asking for help. Still, Yukimura never let his spirit become poor. He talked with the villagers. He enjoyed poetry. Sometimes he went hunt. Every day, his father talked with Yukimura about warfare, about strategy, about how to live as a person. Everything his father taught him was carved deeply into Yukimura's heart. At night, Yukimura read books about warfare and strategy. Someday, this knowledge will be needed again. Believing that, he kept studying. Yukimura had a son named Daisuke. Born in Kudoyama, Yukimura often went to the river with Daisuke. There he taught him to swim and trained his body. Even in confinement, Yukimura never stopped preparing. The villagers loved Yukimura, his gentle nature, the way he treated everyone with respect. Though a great warrior, he never acted proud. The villagers deeply respected him. To earn money, Yukimura used a family skill, making strong cord. He had the villagers make these cords. Merchants sold them across the country. The merchants would say, "This cord is as strong as the bond between the Sanada father and son who fought Tokugawa Ieyasu." In this way, the Sanada name was never forgotten. It remained in people's memories. After 3 years, the father fell ill. Day by day, his strength faded. Yukimura cared for him. The father spoke to Yukimura what he had learned, the wisdom he'd gained on battlefields, and the path Yukimura should walk. "Someday, war will come again," the father said quietly. "When that time comes, walk the path you believe in." Yukimura could only nod. In 1611, the father died at age 65. 11 years had passed since coming to Kudoyama. Yukimura built his father's grave, and he was left alone. The hermitage without his father was far too quiet. Having lost the one he could talk with, Yukimura lived in deep solitude. Yukimura was now 36. He had spent more than half his life as a hostage or in confinement. He'd been active on the battlefield for only a brief time. Even after losing his father, Yukimura's confinement continued. 3 more years passed. Yukimura occasionally wrote to his brother. In those letters, he lamented growing old, gray mixed with his hair, deep lines carved into his face, his strength fading. But deep in his heart, a thought no one knew about grew. Someday, that time will come. Yukimura sometimes gathered people who lived nearby. He talked about warfare. He had them train with bows and guns, without anyone noticing. Quietly, but steadily, he continued preparing. At night, he still read books. He reviewed his father's tactics again and again. 14 years. That time took much from Yukimura. His youth, his strength, and most of all, his father, his greatest support. But at the same time, those 14 years gave Yukimura something, an understanding of what truly matters, beyond winning or losing. Winning battles, gaining land, becoming powerful. Once, those were the obvious goals. But during 14 years of silence, Yukimura's heart changed. Not for rewards, not for status, only to repay a debt of gratitude, to walk the path he believed in, to show the Sanada name to the world. That alone grew large within Yukimura. Spring of 1614, Yukimura was 48. His life in Kudoyama had reached its 14th year. One spring day, a messenger came to Yukimura's hermitage. The messenger came from Osaka Castle. Relations between the Tokugawa and Toyotomi have worsened again. War is coming. Please, lend us your strength. Yukimura answered quietly. I understand. An immediate response. The messenger was shocked. Everyone knew. The Toyotomi side had no chance of victory. Tokugawa Ieyasu already ruled Japan. Warlords across the country obeyed him. His power was overwhelming. The Toyotomi had only Osaka Castle. Those gathering there were mostly men with nowhere else to go. In war, the outcome was clear. Still, Yukimura decided without hesitation to go to Osaka. Long ago, Lord Hideyoshi was good to me. I want to repay that kindness, Yukimura said calmly. When he was a hostage in Osaka, Hideyoshi had truly treated him well. He promoted him to close retainer. He arranged his marriage. He gave him status. Beyond being a hostage, Hideyoshi accepted him as part of the family. Yukimura had never forgotten that kindness. Through 14 long years, what Yukimura never forgot was gratitude. Even without reward, even without hope of victory, repay the debt of gratitude. That was the unshakable belief Yukimura had cultivated over 14 years. Yukimura began preparing to go to Osaka. He held a feast for the villagers to express his gratitude, he said. Actually, this had another meaning. Yukimura leaving the village must not be known to the shogunate. He needed to leave without the villagers noticing. But at the feast, the villagers understood. This gentle warrior would not return. Still, no one tried to stop him. No one reported him to the shogunate. For 14 years, Yukimura had lived closely with the villagers. The villagers truly loved him. Yukimura could leave the village because the local people loved him. 18th March, 1614. Together with his son Daisuke, Yukimura left Kudoyama, where he'd lived for 14 years. His father was no longer in this world, but with everything his father taught him in his heart, Yukimura headed for Osaka Castle. Yukimura, at 48, gray mixed with his hair, deep lines in his face. He was no longer young, but in his eyes, there was a quiet yet strong light that hadn't been there 14 years ago. It was the light of resolve. The unshakable resolve cultivated by 14 years of silence. That resolve would soon shake all of Japan. When Yukimura arrived at Osaka Castle, the Toyotomi side welcomed him greatly. Everyone knew the Sanada name, the warrior who defeated a massive Tokugawa army with a small force. The man who, with his father, confused enemies through strategy. Yukimura had come. Just that fact brought hope to the castle. But Yukimura looked around the castle and realized something. Those gathered were mostly men, with nowhere else to go. There was no unity, no organization. Like this, they couldn't fight a war, Yukimura thought. How can I unite these men? How can we face the massive Tokugawa army? Then Yukimura made a decision. Wear red armor. Dress all the soldiers in red. Red, that was the color of the Takeda clan, whom Yukimura's grandfather had served. Takeda Shingen, called the strongest warrior of the age. His army was unified in red armor, called the Red Regiment, a brilliant red that overwhelmed all who saw it. And Tokugawa Ieyasu had once been defeated by this Red Regiment when he was young. The Battle of Mikatagahara. For Ieyasu, it was his greatest defeat in life. For Ieyasu, the Red Army was a nightmare. Yukimura knew this. His father had told him how much Ieyasu feared the Takeda Red Regiment. So Yukimura chose red. Dress the scattered soldiers in red. Just that makes them look like one army, and it would revive that old fear in Ieyasu's heart. The Red Army has appeared again. That fact alone could shake Ieyasu. Yukimura also raised the Sanada banner high. 6 coins. The coins to pay for crossing to the afterlife. We are prepared to die. That banner proclaimed it. November 1614. The massive Tokugawa army of 200,000 surrounded Osaka Castle. The Toyotomi side had 100,000, but most were inexperienced in battle. Everyone thought, this war won't last long. But Yukimura had a strategy. On the south side of Osaka Castle was a weak point, flat land, with weak defenses. If attacked there, the castle would be in danger. Yukimura proposed building a fort at that location. Sanada Maru, later called by that name a small fort. Those around him objected. Building a fort outside the castle is too dangerous. You'll be isolated, but Yukimura wouldn't yield. If we defend this place, we defend the castle. Yukimura's words had conviction. 14 years of silence. During that time, Yukimura kept studying. He'd thought through his father's tactics again and again. Sanada Maru was completed. Then the Tokugawa army attacked Sanada Maru. Yukimura waited quietly. The enemy approaches. Closer still. Wait. Then, at the most effective moment, fire. With Yukimura's command, simultaneous firing began. The sound of guns echoed across the battlefield. The Tokugawa army fell into chaos. An unexpected attack. No escape from this terrain. Soldiers fell one after another. The Tokugawa army had no choice but to retreat. In this battle, the Tokugawa army suffered great losses. Sanada Maru's casualties were almost none. Yukimura's complete victory. Tokugawa Ieyasu was shocked. Sanada Yukimura, this man was such a fearsome warrior, confined in a remote mountain for 14 years, already 48 years old. Yet he possessed this much power? Ieyasu thought to win Yukimura to his side. He sent a messenger with this offer. I will give you the entire province of Shinano. Won't you join the Tokugawa? The entire province of Shinano. That was what Yukimura's father had once desired. The position of a great lord, wealthy land, the prosperity of the Sanada family. Everything could be his. But Yukimura's answer was clear. I must decline. The messenger was shocked. Why? Isn't joining the Tokugawa wiser than continuing a hopeless war? Yukimura answered quietly. I am here to repay a debt of gratitude, not for reward. The messenger could say nothing. There was no hesitation in Yukimura's eyes. The unshakable resolve cultivated over 14 years. It was there. Ieyasu gave up trying to take Sanada Maru by force. Instead, he proposed peace. Let us stop the fight. However, filling in Osaka Castle's outer moat is the condition. Filling the outer moat, that meant weakening the castle's defenses. The Toyotomi side worried. Yukimura opposed it. We must not fill the outer moat. In the next battle, we'll be at a disadvantage. But people tired of war chose peace. December 1614. The winter campaign ended with peace. The outer moat was filled, greatly weakening Osaka Castle's defenses. But Ieyasu didn't keep his promise. He began filling not just the outer moat, but the inner moat too. Then, in April 1615, just 4 months later, Ieyasu attacked Osaka Castle again. The summer campaign began. Yukimura was prepared. This would be the final battle. The castle's defenses were gone. They lacked soldiers. Victory was impossible now. Still, there was still light in Yukimura's eyes. Defeat is certain, but we can choose how we lose. Yukimura called his son Daisuke. I'm going into the final battle. Daisuke nodded. He too was prepared. Together with father, Yukimura smiled gently. No, you must stay in the castle. Daisuke was shocked. Why? You must survive. You must keep the Sanada bloodline alive. Daisuke shed tears. I want to fight with father. Yukimura gently stroked his son's head. I know, but someone must survive. Someone must carry on the Sanada name. Daisuke couldn't speak. This would be their last conversation. They both knew it. 7th May, 1615, the final battle of the summer campaign. In the morning, Yukimura led 3,500 soldiers into battle. All wore red. The banner bore 6 coins, an army prepared to die. The Tokugawa headquarters could be seen in the distance. Tokugawa Ieyasu was there. Yukimura spoke to his soldiers. Today, we go to take Ieyasu's head. The soldiers held their breath. Ieyasu's head. Was such a thing possible? But Yukimura continued, we cannot win. Everyone knows that. But Yukimura's voice grew stronger. Let us fight a battle that will be remembered for generations. Let us show the Sanada name to all Japan. Light filled the soldiers' eyes. Yes, it's not about winning or losing. How we fight. That's what mattered. Yukimura mounted his horse. His red armor gleamed in the morning sun. Charge. With Yukimura's command, the Red Army began to move straight towards Ieyasu's headquarters. The Tokugawa army was shocked, with only 3,500 soldiers, charging at an army of 200,000. It made no sense, but the moment they saw that Red Army, fear ran through the Tokugawa soldiers. The Red Regiment, the nightmare army once led by Takeda Shingen, it had appeared again. Yukimura's force cut through the Tokugawa army as it advanced. Those who blocked their path fell one after another. Yukimura's sword flashed. The red-clad soldiers pushed forward. The Tokugawa army began to crumble. Fear spread like wildfire. The Sanada are here. It's the Red Regiment. Shouts echoed across the battlefield. Yukimura's army finally reached near Ieyasu's headquarters. Ieyasu's banner was visible ahead. Tokugawa retainers hurried to protect Ieyasu, but Yukimura's momentum wouldn't stop. The first charge, Ieyasu's headquarters shook greatly. Ieyasu's guards desperately defended. Yukimura withdrew once. Then immediately, the second charge. This time he cut even deeper. Ieyasu's banner was knocked down. For a moment, Yukimura saw Ieyasu, 48-year-old Yukimura, and 73-year-old Ieyasu. Their eyes met. Fear showed on Ieyasu's face. This man truly means to take my head. He's serious. Ieyasu's retainers tried to surround Yukimura. Yukimura withdrew again. His breathing was labored, his strength nearing its limit. Still, Yukimura launched a third charge. His legs felt heavy now. His arms had no strength left, but he couldn't stop. Ieyasu's headquarters was ahead again. Ieyasu's guards stood in his way. Yukimura swung his sword. One man, then another. He cut them down, but the enemies were countless. Wounds multiplied on Yukimura's body. Still, Yukimura pushed forward. He saw Ieyasu again. Ieyasu was completely controlled by fear. He shouted to his retainers, "Retreat. Move the headquarters back." Ieyasu, the ruler of Japan, ordered a retreat. The headquarters began moving backwards. Records say Ieyasu considered taking his own life twice. That's how fierce Yukimura's charge was. Yukimura pursued Ieyasu 11 kilometers. That distance, Yukimura chased Ieyasu. But finally, Yukimura's strength ran out. He dismounted and entered a small nearby shrine, a quiet place called Yasui Shrine. Yukimura sat down at the base of a tree. He no longer had strength to stand. His whole body was winded. His breathing was rough. But Yukimura's face showed a peaceful expression. He'd done it. He'd given everything. He'd shown the Sanada name to all Japan. That was enough. Then a Tokugawa soldier approached. He'd found Yukimura. The soldier readied his spear. Yukimura said quietly, "My head will bring you honor. Take it." The soldier hesitated. In front of him was an enemy commander, someone he should defeat, but he was overwhelmed by what he saw. The red armor was stained with blood. Deep exhaustion was carved into his face. Yet there was still light in those eyes. Pride, dignity, and satisfaction at having accomplished his mission. The soldier couldn't lower his spear, but duty was duty. The soldier delivered the final blow. Sanada Yukimura, aged 49. His life ended. However, Yukimura's death didn't end there. Ieyasu wouldn't believe the report that Yukimura had been killed. Is it truly Sanada? Are you certain it's him? They say he made them confirm repeatedly. That's how much Yukimura's charge had shaken Ieyasu's heart. Eventually, Yukimura's head was brought to Ieyasu. Ieyasu looked at it and finally believed. Sanada Yukimura was truly dead. Ieyasu is said to have spoken these words: "Sanada, Japan's #1 warrior." Japan's #1 warrior. That was the highest praise Ieyasu, his enemy, could give Yukimura. Yukimura defeated in battle and dead. Yet his fighting spirit amazed even his enemies. Just 2 months after Yukimura's death, Osaka Castle fell and the Toyotomi family was destroyed. Tokugawa Ieyasu completely secured control of Japan. The Tokugawa shogunate continued for over 260 years. The victor was Ieyasu. But something strange happened. people began telling Yukimura's story. The warrior who endured 14 years of silence and fought for gratitude. The man who risked his life in a hopeless battle. His final charge that made the ruler tremble with fear. These stories touched people's hearts. The Tokugawa shogunate never banned talk of Yukimura. In fact, they allowed it. Why? Because Yukimura's way of life embodied the samurai ideal. Fighting not for reward, but for gratitude. Living not for victory, but for honor. Maintaining one's beliefs until the end. Warriors respected this way of living. Even the Tokugawa shogunate had to acknowledge it. Yukimura's story was written in books, performed in plays, passed down through generations. Even today, Yukimura's name isn't forgotten. People around the world are moved by how Yukimura lived. Why is the defeated Yukimura praised more than the victorious Ieyasu? The answer is clear. Because Yukimura protected what mattered most. It wasn't victory, wealth, or status. Gratitude, honor, and human dignity. What Yukimura found during 14 years of silence was the answer to what truly holds value in life. Winning isn't everything. How did you live? What did you fight for? Could you remain true to yourself until the end? That's what mattered. Yukimura showed this answer with his life. That's why people still speak of Yukimura more than 400 years later. The resolve that Sanada Yukimura showed after 14 years of silence continues to resonate in people's hearts across time. Thank you for listening to Sanada Yukimura's story until the end. 14 years is a long time. It took many things. Youth, strength, freedom. But at the same time, that time gave Yukimura something. The ability to see what truly matters. Unshakable belief, and the resolve to live true to himself until the end. Yukimura's way of life speaks to us today. When results don't come quickly, when you feel unrewarded, when you're about to lose sight of your own value, at those times, remember Yukimura's story. Remember, there is a man who endured 14 years of silence, and in the end, made all of Japan tremble. If today's story touched your heart even a little, please write 100 in the comments. This number has no special meaning, but each one you write encourages us. And please read other people's comments too. See what thoughts others who heard the same story held. Each 100 carries someone's feelings. If you'd like to hear more stories from this channel, we'd be happy if you subscribed and pressed the bell icon. We also warmly welcome your support through membership. In the next video, we'll share another moving life story. Until next time.